What really decides big finals? Think back to last year's grand final, the Brisbane heroics of Will Ashcroft and Lachie Neale dominating the midfield, in 2023 with Bobby Hill's dominant first half, or even the Richmond days of the late 2010s that saw Dustin Martin etch himself as the greatest finals player we have ever seen. Sure, they are all pivotal players in their games, but were they really the difference? The closer you look at those games and the big ones in 2025, the more an important trend is becoming clear. It's not the top half of the stat sheet that has a massive influence, but the bottom half. In a competition that is so close, especially with the top 8 and top 4 race, we might be entering an era where the lesser knowns are the real MVPs, not the names that sit in bright lights. Those names do sell the tickets and why people go to the games and watch them on TV. Individual brilliance is often rightly pointed out and appreciated, but it has an effect on the way we all look at the game. The top 50 players list by the Herald Sun, player rankings and things of that nature make it often seem teams are better than what they really are. At the end of the day, there are 18 players on the field and 4 on the bench active and in the game. It's a lot, and no one player can carry a team to win after win. A couple teams fit with this narrative. Carlton is probably the main one in 2025. The star names of Curnow and Mackay up forward, Patrick Cripps, Tom De Koning and Sam Walsh on ball, and then Jacob Wiedering in defence. It's a nice sounding spine, and why punters had Carlton sitting at the second best odds to win the flag entering round 1. Now I know injury and form has been a factor, but the big names did hide the obvious deficiencies. No elite small forward play, a slow midfield compared to the best in the competition, and no real depth in case of injury. This played out over the first half of the season and saw Carlton be a touch under 500 before they fell right away. Even the Western Bulldogs fit here. Sure, they might sneak into finals, but the big names of Sam Darcy, Aaron Norton, Marcus Bonampelli, Ed Richards, Tom Liberatore and Bailey Dale have some rating the Dogs list as one of, if not the best. But looking at the team, the shaky key back play of James O'Donnell and Rory Lobb has been exposed way too many times. The inconsistent play of their small forwards besides Riley West has stood out, and a raft of young players are still finding their feet like Riley Sanders, Cooper Hines, Josh Dolan and Luke Cleary. The top 6 names are brilliant, but the bottom 6 are still inconsistent. Even Gold Coast of the past with Matt Rowell, Noah Anderson and Ben King were so elite, but have always lacked that last third of the group to make it into finals. There has been a bit of a debate in the past about what is more important, the top 6 players in your team or the bottom 6. In 2025 and a bit of the recent past, it seems the latter has become more crucial. That even spread of contributors often overrides the individual capabilities of an elite core of players any given team may have. Before we get to the teams in 2025 and their bottom end players, let's look at some of those big finals in the past and see if this theory holds up. Now a bottom 6 is equivalent to a third of a team on field, so for this we're going to look at the bottom 15 rated players in these sets of games, which is roughly a third of the 46 total players that feature on match day. Let's go to the 2024 Grand Final. Out of the 15 lowest rated players on the ground, 10 of them were from Sydney and 5 were from Brisbane. How about the 2023 Grand Final? An extremely close game. Well, Collingwood actually had 8 of the 15 lowest rated players, but 6 of the bottom 7 were Brisbane players. In 2022, Geelong only had 5 of the bottom 15, Sydney accounted for 10, and in 2021, Melbourne had 4 of the bottom 15, while the Western Bulldogs had a massive 11. It's a bit of a shift as the Grand Finals pre-2021 did have a relatively even bottom third. Richmond had more in that range than Geelong, yet won the Grand Final, Collingwood the same in 2018, and Richmond had 7 of the bottom 15 compared to Adelaide's 8 in 2017, even though they won the game comfortably. But in the present day, this does seem to have changed. In fact, out of all of the finals in 2024, Just the GWS and Brisbane semi-final had the losing side, in this case GWS, have less players in the bottom 15 than the winning team. And in this game, GWS had 7 to Brisbane's 8, so the gap wasn't extreme either. That bottom third of your team is becoming so crucial. A couple of clubs have adapted well. Adelaide is the notable one. James Peatling, Isaac Cumming and Alex Neil-Bullen all came in during the trade period. None are superstars or big names, but do raise the level of strength of the Crows squad. Cumming fits nicely on a wing, Neil-Bullen is a hard-working half forward, and Peatling adds more midfield depth. Instead of having a couple young players or a fringe player in their spots, Adelaide now has 3 senior players. Gold Coast did a similar thing. Now Daniel Rioli is a star recruit, and adding John Noble beside him gave the Suns 2 important rebound defenders. Some internal growth from guys like Ben Long, Joel Jeffrey, Sam Closey and Bodie Uland have also propelled the Suns up the ladder and given them a more well-rounded 23 each week. But the club that has done this for the best and the longest period of time is Geelong. They've been a top 4 threat for over a decade under Chris Scott and have mastered getting a fluid unit together despite not having all of the big names. Finding guys like Sean Manor, Brad Close and Lawson Humphreys from the second tier competitions of late has rejuvenated the team, and the spine around Dangerfield, Cameron and Stewart has always been solid. Even the Cats' really important players like Jack Henry, Zach Guthrie, Tom Atkins and of late Ollie Dempsey don't put up big stats or get all Australian blazers, but season upon season do their jobs well and fit the way Scott wants them to play. So in 2025, who are the teams that have the best of the bottom tier players? It's hard to look past Collingwood and Brisbane at full strength. Now the Pies have managed players of late, but let's look at the team that played Essendon on Anzac Day. Besides captain Darcy Moore, it was never a full strength lineup. Ned Long, Will Hoskin-Elliott, Beau McCreary, Billy Frampton, Patrick Lipinski and Tim Membry were about the bottom 6-ish players in that team. That is an incredibly strong bottom. Lipinski is one of the best inside 50 kicks right now, Ned Long has become one of Collingwood's primary inside bulls, and Billy Frampton is more than reliable as a lockdown defender. Even the Brisbane Lions team against the Bulldogs in round 19, without Jack Payne, Noah Answorth and Zach Bailey, had no massive weak points. Bruce Reveal was probably the standout, who doesn't feature regularly at AFL level, but all of Darcy Fort, Darcy Gardner, Ryan Lester and Levi Ashcroft, who round out the team, all do their roles very well. I can't even call that a bottom 5 group because the quality is there. The Lions and Pies are probably the 2 teams when at full strength really have no bottom. There are role players that fit in and do their jobs each week. So the challenge will be up to the Adelaides, Hawthorn and Giants of the world to see if their whole teams can challenge the last 2 reigning premiers, who do seem to have the most well-rounded teams, at least on paper. Sure, these team stars will need to play well, but the evenness of the competition at the top seems to be requiring everyone on the field to play their part and not rely on too few.